What's good, y'all? Today on the show, we are going to talk about the ATF's new rule and its impact on us as law abiding gun owners. And another country has decided to classify gender delusion as a mental illness, so we'll discuss that. And a commencement speech causes the left wing lunatics to go loony, even more loony than usual. So we'll get into all that and more if we have time on this episode of the Mission Ready Men podcast. So let's get after it. All right, before we get started, go ahead and hit the like button and share this video. The more you like and share, the easier it is for us to defeat the algorithm. You can also follow us on socials at Mission Ready Men on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can also find the podcast, audio podcast, on Spreaker and Spotify and wherever you like to get your audio podcast from. Also, if you like the shirt that I'm wearing, straight out of scripture, go ahead and head over to 7armors.com. And for our audio listeners, that's the number 7armors.com. And check it out. And check out all the other great designs as well. All right. Now the business is out of the way. Let's hit it.
Hit it, sweetheart.
We're going to try to start something new here on the podcast. And we're going to start a practice of honoring Mission Ready Man of the Week. As the first Mission Ready Man of the Week, we're going to honor Harrison Butker. Harrison Butker is the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. I believe they just won the Super Bowl. Like I said, I don't follow the NFL or haven't watched the game in years now. But that's not why he's our Mission Ready Man of the Week. He gave a commencement speech during which he stated some absolutely basic truths that caused the left to go berserk, apoplectic. Now, here's a couple of clips here's one clip that they found particularly galling.
For the ladies present today, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. You should be proud of all that you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now, about to cross this stage, and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. I'm on this stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker.
Now that clip was great. The whole speech was fantastic, and I did a quick reel on it when it happened. But I'm going to expand on that more here. Of course, the left said that was misogynistic, and his mindset is he wants women to be barefoot and pregnant and stay at home and not to have careers and all the nonsense, all the Handmaid's Tale memes you can think of came about as a result of that one particular clip. But the backlash that he's getting stems from the anti-God, anti-Christian, anti-Catholic bigotry that permeates our society today. Now, the speech was given at Benedictine College, a Catholic university, Catholic college. So it makes sense. It makes perfect sense that they would get an outspoken Catholic to give their commencement address. Not a fake Catholic like Biden or Pelosi, but a true practicing faithful Catholic. And he didn't say anything. He didn't say anything that wasn't accepted as the norm up until about 5 minutes ago. And it wasn't just, he didn't just talk to women like they would have you believe it because they're saying he was so misogynistic. He had a message for men too. Check it out.
To the gentleman here today, part of what plagues our society is this lie that has been told to you that men are not necessary in the home or in our communities. As men, we set the tone of the culture, and when that is absent, disorder, dysfunction, and chaos set in. This absence of men in the home is what plays a large role in the violence we see all around the nation. Other countries do not have nearly the same absentee father rates as we find here in the US, and a correlation could be made in their drastically lower violence rates as well. Be unapologetic in your masculinity, fighting against the cultural emasculation of men. Do hard things. Never settle for what is easy. You might have a talent that you don't necessarily enjoy, but if it glorifies God, maybe you should lean into that over something that you might think suits you better.
There was so much to break down in that clip. I'm not gonna get into all of it. It's stuff that we've talked about here before. But one of the most important thing a man can do after serving the Lord is be a man. Be a man. Act like a man. Get married. Raise your children in the fear and admonition of the Lord. Protect your family. The most important thing a woman can do is get married, support her husband, and raise their children with her husband. And as I said, this is a traditional mindset that has been accepted by everyone until very, very recently. And if that wasn't enough to piss everybody off, he also said this.
I am certain the reporters at the AP could not have imagined that their attempt to rebuke and embarrass places and people like those here at Benedictine wouldn't be met with anger, but instead met with excitement and pride. Not the deadly sin sort of pride that has an entire month dedicated to it, but the true God-centered pride that is cooperating with the Holy Ghost to glorify Him. Reading that article now shared all over the world, we see that in the complete surrender of self and a turning towards Christ, you will find happiness.
This is another part of the speech that sent people into an absolute tailspin as well. Because it is completely unacceptable to call homosexuality a sin. And it's not like he condemned homosexuals. He didn't call it out outright, but he simply said there was a month dedicated to, it's actually more than that, if you really look at it. But he said that there was a month dedicated to a deadly sin. There was a time when there was a sense of shame for anyone who engaged in any of the 7 deadly sins. And I know the 7 deadly sins is not listed explicitly in the Bible. I understand that. All of them are talked about and called other things throughout the Bible. So I'm completely aware. So let's just move on. Some of the other parts of the speech that people had huge problems with. He called out Biden as a delusional Catholic for making the sign of the cross at a pro-baby murder rally. Very delusional. But he called out the COVID fiasco. He called out baby murder. He called out IVF. He called out surrogacy. He called out euthanasia. And just a growing support for a degenerate culture, which he said stems from a pervasiveness of disorder. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong, but I'll take it a step further and say that it stems from outright rebellion against God. And the backlash that he's getting from this speech confirms that. He's a Catholic in the off season making a speech at a Catholic institution that embraces Catholic teaching and traditional values. This used to be the norm, as I've said before. Up until very recently, this was how it was. And the degenerate culture that so many people embrace now is showing itself, and it's anti-Christian, anti-Catholic, anti-God bigotry, which at its essence is rebellion against God. Pride is rebellion against God. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. A couple of years ago, Congress passed and the Potato in the Oval Office signed into law the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Now, one of the many problems with this law is that it redefined what constitutes a gun dealer. Prior to this law being passed, the definition of a gun dealer was someone who devotes time, attention, and labor to dealing in firearms as a regular course of trade or business with the principal objective of livelihood and profit through the repetitive purchase and resale of firearms. Now, all you have to do is sell a gun. And this is a portion of the rule from the Federal Register. Although the department has determined not to include a gross income-based presumption in this final rule, the department notes that evidence of expenditures for the purchase of firearms in excess of an individual's reported gross income may nevertheless be relevant in the factual assessment as to whether an individual is engaged in the business, meaning the business of dealing firearms. As amended by the BCA, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the relevant assessment under the GCA, the Gun Control Act, is whether a person's intent in engaging in firearm sales is predominantly one of obtaining pecuniary gain. The financial circumstances of an individual engaged in the repetitive acquisition and sale of firearms is therefore relevant to this assessment. Pecuniary gain, I don't know why they didn't just say making a profit, because that's what that means. And yes, I had to look it up. I had a feeling, but I had to look it up. Anyway, so all you basically have to do is sell a firearm. And there are other parts of the rule where if you are advertising online or you have a sign in a window or you're at a gun show, if you engage in any of those activities to try and sell your firearm, you are immediately classified as a gun dealer. And if you lose your job, which is an increasing possibility with Bidenomics, you can't legally sell your guns to feed your family, according to this rule, without obtaining an FFL. Because you'll be considered a gun dealer. And if you do it without an FFL, obviously, you're a felon. So if you sell your gun to a friend or you need to sell it to make some cash, you could find yourself on the ATF's radar. A lot like what happened to Brian Malinowski in Arkansas back in March. And this is also what happened to Dexter Taylor in New York. And if you're not familiar with Dexter Taylor, he landed on the ATF's radar when he bought a number of kits to build guns, parts, and tools, totaling about $40,000 worth, according to reports. Now, after he built his guns, New York passed legislation in response to the Bruin decision, passed legislation to make it illegal to build your own guns. After he had already done it. He was already, though, on the ATF's radar, and they were engaged in a joint investigation with NYPD. But he wasn't accused of selling any firearms. He wasn't accused of trafficking firearms in any way. He is a firearms enthusiast, and he was building guns as a hobby. And when he had his home raided, they seized 5 pistols, 8 rifles, only about 50 rounds of ammunition, but they've also seized reloading material, gun parts, computers, and a 3D printer. Now, after all that, the ATF closed their investigation, finding that he had not committed any crimes. He had not violated the rule that they had just put in place. He hadn't sold any of the firearms he built. He didn't advertise or intend to sell any of them. He never offered to build guns for anyone else. This was all for him and his hobby. So there was no violation of this rule. ATF closed their investigation, but NYPD kept it up because this is anti-gun New York. And the judge in this case, wow. And this is from the story in bearingarms.com. According to Taylor's attorney, the judge in the case instructed them at one point not to bring the Second Amendment into this courtroom, telling them that it doesn't exist here. So you can't argue the Second Amendment. This is New York. Wow. Just talk about saying the quiet part out loud. That is shouting it from the rooftops. That not only has to be grounds for appeal, that has to be grounds for getting that judge thrown off the bench, if not disbarred completely. She's telling the attorneys that the law of the land, the Constitution, has no bearing in her courtroom. Wow. Just beyond the pale. Unbelievable. Now, if you want to contribute to his defense, because he's going to need it, he's been sentenced, but he obviously is appealing. So if you want to contribute to his defense, I'll have a link to his Give, Send, Go in the show notes. But this is I don't usually say unbelievable because nothing really should surprise us at this point. But wow. Some countries in Europe and other countries around the world are rolling back their policies that cater to these gender deluded activists, the ones who are mutilating themselves and encouraging children and other people to mutilate themselves and take cross-sex hormones that permanently render them infertile and undergo these mutilating surgeries. It's ridiculous. And Peru is one of these countries. The Peruvian government has signed a supreme decree that defines gender delusion, also known as transgenderism, as a mental disorder. And this was part of an update to their essential health insurance plan. And this is an article from Breitbart, and it says the controversial decree stated that following a review of the diagnoses included in the World Health Organization's 10th International Classification of Diseases, the ICD-10, that are included in the country's PEAS health program, the omission of 7 ICD-10 diagnoses related to mental health problems were found, which, according to the decree, should be incorporated into the nation's health care plans, taking into account Peru's mental health laws. As such, the decree defines transsexualism, dual-role transvestism, child gender identity disorder, other gender identity disorders, and gender identity disorder unspecified as mental health problems in accordance with the definitions established by the WHO's ICD-10 manual. And this has driven the left bananas yet again. Because, well, up until 5 minutes ago, this was always considered a mental disorder. Now, the article goes on to mention that the WHO guidelines on which the Peruvian government based this decree have been updated to the ICD-10-11, and now those conditions are no longer, according to the WHO, classified as mental illnesses, of course. Now, I'm not going to get into all the issues around why declassifying these conditions as mental disorders is part of a grand plan to normalize this deviant behavior and what the end goal is. We've talked about it a number of times. We'll talk about it again, I'm sure. But this is a great start. This is a great start. Europe, the UK, and some other countries over in Europe are rolling back these classifications, these guidelines. Argentina with Javier Milei is trying to put a stop to the socialist agenda that's going on, or that was going on there now until he got elected. And now Peru is recognizing gender delusion as a mental disorder. So God is moving. Our prayers are being answered, because this just can't continue. And it seems like that things are moving in the right direction. All right, really quick. I added this into the show after I had everything all mapped out. But then I heard speeches, clips from this speech, and wanted to talk about it because it really is a tale of two commencement addresses. We talked about Harrison Butker's great address, but then we had Biden's stumbling, bumbling mess of a speech at Morehouse.
A lot of you, like my family, had to make significant sacrifices to get your kids to school. It mattered. It's mattered a lot. And the friends of Morehouse and the Morehouse men of the class of 2024, I got more Morehouse men in the White House telling me what to do than I know what to do. I know 4 years ago, as some of your speakers have already mentioned, it felt like one of those Saturdays. The pandemic robbed you of so much. Some of you lost loved ones, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, who aren't able to be here to celebrate with you today. You missed your high school graduation. You started college just as George Floyd was murdered. And there was a reckoning on race. It's natural to wonder if democracy you hear about actually works for you. What is democracy? If black men are being killed in the street, what is democracy? The trail of broken promises still leave black communities behind. What is democracy? You have to be 10 times better than anyone else to get a fair shot. And most of all, what does it mean, as we've heard before, to be a black man who loves his country, even if it doesn't love him back in equal measure?
So many lies packed into 90 seconds. And I'm not even going to get into all of it, debunking all of it. I mean, George Floyd wasn't murdered. Black men do not have to be 10 times as good as the next person in line to get a fair shot. I mean, that's just an outright lie. And one, I didn't look into it myself, but I saw the reporting on it. There is not a single person, man or woman, in the White House who graduated from Morehouse College. Not a one. Anyway, before we call it a day, there were a couple of crazy things that happened last week, and I want to get to them real quick. First, just check it out.
Do you know what we're here for? You know we're here about AG.
I don't think you know what you're here for.
Well, you the one talking about.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No, ain't nothing.
Hold
on.
Listen.
Order.
Mr. I do have a point of order, and I would like to move to take down Ms. Green's words. That is absolutely unacceptable. How dare you attack the physical appearance of another person?
Are your feelings hurt?
Her words down.
Aw.
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play.
Baby girl? I don't think
we are going to move, and we're going to take your words down.
Why don't you debate me?
Mr. Chairman,
The minority.
pretty
No,
self-evident.
you're not.
Yeah, you're
out
not.
of order.
You don't have enough
You're out of order.
intelligence.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Ms. Crockett.
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
Chairman, I make a motion to strike those words.
I don't think that's
Hold
a
on.
part of
I'm
it.
trying to find clarification on what qualifies.
Chairman, motion to strike
I had no
those
idea
words.
what you just said.
We're not gonna do this. Look, you guys earlier literally just.
You just voted to do
Y'all did
it.
it first, so you don't want to talk about
voted to do it.
Order.
I'm trying to get clarification.
Look at, calm down.
No, because this
I
is
would
what
like to
y'all
get
do.
through proceedings.
So I'm trying to get
Ms.
clarification.
Crockett, you're not
Y'all wanna
recognized.
play
Ms.
games?
Crockett.
I can't hear you with your
And
yelling.
You don't want
Calm
me to
down.
Be,
Can
no,
you please calm
don't
down?
tell me to calm down.
Calm down.
Because y'all
Please
talk
calm
noise,
down.
and then you
You're
can't
out of
take
control.
Because if
Look, Chairman, can we
come
send
and
her
talk
outside to
shit
take a
about
break
her,
for 5
y'all
minutes?
gonna have a
Mr.
problem.
Chairman.
I know a lot of conservatives have an issue with Marjorie Taylor Greene right there. I kind of get it, but I don't have a problem with anything that she did. She gets crapped on in the media and by her colleagues all the time, and with far more vitriol than she displayed in that exchange. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, bring back duels. Seriously, bring back duels. Now, there was a point during that exchange, they recessed and were dealing with parliamentary issues that lasted for about 10 or 12 minutes. And it sounded like AOC was itching for a physical confrontation with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, I don't know if AOC is a martial arts practitioner or what. I think if she was, we would know because we know everything else. But I don't think she or Jasmine Crockett really wants any part of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene grew up on a farm. She's a CrossFit athlete. She works out a lot with heavy weights. I mean, anything's possible, but I really don't think they want any part of Marjorie Taylor Greene. And if we brought back duels, if we brought that back, if we put a MMA octagon somewhere in the halls of Congress, there would be a lot less of this stuff. I guarantee it. Anyway, finally, can we dispense with this ridiculous notion that black people can't be racist? Can we?
How do we have a large body of people that are in our city and country that are excellent swimmers, and at the same time we need lifeguards? And the only obstacle is that we won't give them the right to work to become a lifeguard.
Is it just me, or did Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, just call Mexicans wetbacks? I mean, obviously, that's exactly what he just did. But the American Pravda said nothing. They said nothing. And I know this is an overused comparison, but it's very often appropriate. But imagine, and I hate saying this because, like I said, it's overused, but in this case, it is appropriate. Imagine if Trump or DeSantis or Greg Abbott or RFK Jr. or pick anyone who is not in the good graces of the American Pravda. Can you imagine if any one of them had said something like that? Forget cancel culture. That they would be calling for that person's head, and it would be an evergreen story until something happened. You know it, and I know it. But because even though he's not exactly the the poster child right now. He's on the outs with the White House to some degree, because he's not fully on board with the way things are being handled with the illegal immigrant invasion. But he's still a leftist, and he still runs cover for them on certain things. So this got absolutely no play in the American Pravda. Anyway, folks, that's going to do it for us today. I will try to do better the next time. I had a couple of other things I wanted to talk about, but I'm out of time. I might do a couple of short videos on them throughout the week, but thank you all for checking us out. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and share these videos, share the audio podcast. Let's spread the good news of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and the message of freedom and liberty so that we can preserve the blessing given to us by God, and that is this great country. And remember, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep those prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.